Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the On Time, On Target Morning Brief for Invest in Fighter Pilot Precision on a daily basis. Welcome to Monday, August 30th. August almost in the books. New exciting news this morning. If you woke up, check the headlines. There's some rumors. I think it's probably more true than rumors, but that's what we're going to talk about today, is that the iPhone 13 is going to have, of course, that's the Apple iPhone 13, is going to have satellite connectivity. So it can use satellites in addition to, of course, cell networks and Wi-Fi and all that other stuff it already uses to be able to pass communications such as messages and phone calls. Now, I don't think I knowingly have ever placed a call on a satellite phone. I've had one in my hand, but I don't think I've ever used it. From when you would travel across the Middle East, up in Afghanistan and stuff, you often had satellite phones because that's the only thing that was going to work up there, right? Because you didn't have the basic infrastructure. Once you got outside of the bases, or the makeshift bases, if you will, the FOBs, you couldn't really place calls except for by satellite phone. So if you ever went remotely at all, or if you're in travel status, you ended up checking one out, you had one with you. Like I said, I don't think I've ever used it. Don't know if that it would be any different or not. But I also do know that satellite phones were one of the major ways for terrorists to communicate with each other, just because they're often think back 10 years ago, which is when my expertise is from, because it's all dated now. But at least 10 years ago, folks in caves were talking on sat phones. They're probably not in the cave, but probably had to go out of the cave to talk on it. But that's certainly if you're remote, that's often the only method of communications you would have. So how's that applicable to the iPhone 13 other than a gee whiz factor? I'm not sure it is. Right, where most of the population stays within normal areas, if you will, but possibly this brings up an Earth-wide connectivity ability, where obviously it's not that way. Say you're on a cruise, going on a cruise, and maybe you leave cell coverage for a while, that sort of thing. Maybe the ship has something, but anyway, this could be an extra level of capability, or the fact that when we're in the air, flying on airlines and things, maybe now we have complete cell service the whole time, even though we've been sold a bill of goods for years that if we use our cell phones, the plane will crash, which is obviously just utter ridiculousness. But they still have you turn your cell phone off because it'll affect the instrumentation of the airplane. What I can say from 20 years of aviation, that's pretty much laughable that you think your cell phone's going to bring down an airliner, but that's somebody somewhere got that into the verbiage. And as far as I know, they still say it. I kind of don't, I fly so much, I don't listen anymore really. But anyhow, that's what we're talking about today. There's a smaller company, which honestly, I used to own this stock way back in the day, and kind of wish I had some this morning because it's up 50%, called GSAT, Global Sat. Some of you in the room may have heard me even talk about this. We're talking 7-8 years ago when I was hot on GSAT, if you will. It was one of those companies. I think it was $2 a share or something. But anyhow, we'll take a look at that chart. I do not necessarily know the tie between the two, if it's exclusive, whatever's going on behind the scenes. But I do know the stock moved up significantly on the news of the iPhone 13 and its satellite capability. So that's what we're talking about today. For our question, just nice, easy one. We talk about gross domestic product. Probably everybody knows what that is, but since we hear it all the time, might as well pull up the Investopedia page and actually check out, put your eyes on the words, make sure you know exactly what it means. So we'll rehash that. And there's different, there's GDP growth, and there's different GDP flows, different things. We'll take a look at those super quick. As far as our longs out there today, the futures are in the green. Again, we're on the 52nd day, I think, of new highs in 2021. And again, 2021, if you remember, this was the year we're going to get stimulus. We're going to beat COVID, kind of. We're going to pass that infrastructure bill, and we're going to go on into tax reform. Well, obviously, we've had challenges with the first three to where are we going to get to tax reform by the end of the year? You would think we would, but I don't know. I don't know. A lot of negativity in the administration right now from the Afghanistan thing. So maybe they hold off for a more positive time to introduce the fact that we're all going to be paying more in taxes. But we shall see. I don't know. But so far, so good. New highs make new highs, right? So off we go. Futures are in the green. I do like the longs better than the shorts. You see neg. Neg is an earnings play, IDEX on an acquisition, and then EDU on an overweight upgrade out there. And then our only short out there is Sava, which again, I don't know exactly what they do, but they have a civil action lawsuit against it that just came out probably this weekend, maybe this morning. I don't know. But yeah, we'll take a look at that. Maybe we catch a move to the downside on it. All right, that's what we have for the show today. If you're catching us on replay, thank you so much for checking us out. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notifications bell. If you want to join us live, it's $25 a month. Come on in the room, ask anything you want. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. All right, welcome back. Here's our lineup card for today. Again, August 30th, a Monday. All right. Make sure you have standard disclaimer replies. Make sure you do your own due diligence for act upon anything you hear this morning. You have to read the full disclaimer is available at ototnow.com. All right, mission objectives: grow our money, protect our money, live off our money. This is growing our money for sure. And of course, it involves our number one holding, mine personally, mine in the book. So therefore, many of you that are listening in the room, if you're either with me or follow me, I tend to not be able to shut up about Apple. Now, Apple has certain periods, and we're coming to the end of one of those periods, what I call the silent period, right? So they announce a bunch of stuff, new products, they have these big Apple events, and then they go dark, right? They just like U.S. government does that, right? So if you got a new thing out there and you don't want anything, you want anybody to know anything about it, you simply say, okay, it's going to happen. There's going to be an iPhone 13, and then you don't say anything about it because you want the surprise factor, right? For everybody to come in and then want to buy it. Well, during the dark period, if you will, sometimes there are things that are leaked out to kind of hype up the product, right? And this is what we're going to talk about today is, and I have not looked at Apple. I had it up earlier, but it hadn't moved. I haven't seen if it moved yet. But, Apple, is this going to move the needle on Apple? I don't know. I can't tell you that. What I can tell you is it's not going to hurt it. It's not, the iPhone 13 is not going to flop because it has additional satellite capability. I mean, that's, what's negative about that, right? So so I think that's a pretty cool thing to take a look at, but it is all about our growing our money out there. All right, questions, GDP, we talked about that. Flow will be long, short, open, short, long. We'll do market review, headline review. We'll take a look at Apple and GSAT. That company I was talking about in the open. We'll get into the short-term execution. Again, I like the longs better than the shorts, but a lawsuit is a good short story. So, and then contingencies and academic resources are standard. All right, let's go over to CNBC. We'll take a look at these futures, refresh those real quick. So barely in the green, but also holding in the green. It's going around the world. Check out Europe is in the green across the board. Asia in the green across the board. So all kind of good news over the weekend. Bonds have hardly moved. Oil barely, slight move, if you will. Gold and silver are mixed, and in crypto down a little bit. So 47.5 on a Bitcoin. All right, here's our big headline of the day. We're going to be talking this morning about 52 days with new records and the market rally and closing out August. That's gonna be what everybody's going to talk about all day long. So what we're going to talk about is this top Apple analyst: iPhone 13 will likely support calls and messages from satellites directly. So GSAT's up 65% this morning on that. And again, that's 93 cents. So again, it's still a $2 stock, and it has been for years. Apple hardly moved, and there's Iridium and Qualcomm that are out there in the iPhone space. But optimistic about trend of satellite communications likely include the ability to connect to these networks. You can use satellites when not within 4 and 5G coverage. So overall, pretty cool. All right, most likely to cooperate is Globalstar, an existing satellite phone network of 24 satellites in LEO. So again, I heard about these guys while I was in the military, invested in them. It sat there at $2 for literally forever and didn't do anything. So I finally left it. So, all right, let's take a look at those charts real quick then. Here's Apple. You've seen that Apple goes into these moves, right? So we're at that here, June to August. Let's talk about what new products we're going to have. We're kind of in that dark period to where the stock just kind of flatlines, if not drops. Just prior to the iPhone 13 release, there will be somebody that will come out with some negative story about how it's not going to perform as necessary, or there's supply chain issues, or there's blah, 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 blah. All the haters come out prior to the release of an iPhone. They're there like clockwork, and generally the stock gets hit. So if you're looking to add Apple, I think you're going to get a better time before the next iPhone comes out And again, that's usually late September, early October, somewhere in there, is when they'll have the announcement, and then available by November sometime, so everybody can have them in their hands by Christmas. Anyhow, that's kind of the story of Apple, if you will. But you can wait if you wanted to buy more. If you have plenty, like I do, just sit and collect the money. All right, here's GSAT. So it ran up back in earlier this year. Don't know the storyline, but again, closed at 143 and it's up almost $1. So it's up around 243 this morning. We're not even going to touch that as far as the day trade because it's moved too far. It's not within our particular plan, but just wanted you to see that chart. All right, let's set up for the open. I'll be right back with you. All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the On Time, On Target play of the day. We have 5 seconds to the market open on today, Monday, August 30th. Here's the opening bell. All right, have the futures up. We have neg long, which you can see 7%, IDEX long 6%, and then we have Sava over here, which is a lawsuit story. So we're going to kind of zoom in on that. That's kind of where I want that first. So this is this is going to be a stab. This is moving so much. We want this to back up, and then we're going to take it to the downside once it establishes the high of the day. So if it's 55, you can see already that you should be entering here at 54.50. You have no assurance this early on whether the top is in on this, even though it sure looks like it is. So we're going to just have to let Sava chill out for a second. All right, IDEX was the acquisition. So again, smaller price point. See, if you stabbed in there, you'd already be back out. So just kind of have to let Sava go for now. All right, and then this is selling off a little bit. So again, to get looking at about a 5 cent, maybe 4 cent point here. I kind of like that double bottom. So it'd be 244 long if 240 holds. I like Sava better to the downside, but just we're not going to be able to cover the high of the day. There's just no way you can cover that. So let's take it at, we use a 50-cent stop at 53.80 if it hits. Okay, just set a new high of the day. So 54. And again, we're not covering the high of the day, which we like to do. This is where you get your best entry on occasion. 54.50 to the downside. $55 to the downside. Again, it's a 50-cent stop. So we're going to be back out of this almost as soon as we're in it. So holding out for that 55 and this thing reverses. If you wanted IDEX long, you'd already be in it. That's not super good out there. All right. 55. That's striped right through it. Don't do anything yet unless you auto-filled it in here. It's going to have to do a dollar stop. I'll probably end up missing this. But man, that was a $3 candlestick right there. All right, 55. We're going to go 54.50 to the negative, to the short side. So again, I like this short. Let's go 55 short. Again, it's going to be a 50-cent stop. We're trying to catch this on the way down. Okay, NAG never ended up doing anything. IDEX didn't really do anything. Market's kind of creeping higher. We're waiting on Sava short on a lawsuit story. All right, here we go. Waiting for 55. Wait for there's 55. So you're in at 55. Nice entry there. Again, 55.50 is the stop. So it's a tight stop. And we're already back out. We may be back out here already. So 54, 53.50, you're already back out of it. So book your trade. There's a 3-hour trade right there. Didn't even get the things drawn. So anyhow, that's why you're waiting on it like that. And thanks for your patience. But this thing backed up so far. We waited there to take it at 55, and then boom, 54.50 is 1R. Just draw these in here to complete the chart and close out the trade. Then you have 2R, and then you see it just stripe down like that on plenty of volume. So anyhow, so in at 55, out at 53.50 at a 50-cent stop. Again, beautiful setup this morning. So nice trade. All right, screen sharing's paused. Oh, that better be on there. Stop share. Okay, I'm going to close this out again, just in case we didn't catch it. We watched it go all the way up to 57. We waited till it got here at 55 as our entry point. We used a 50-cent stop. So 1, 2, 3 R's. We were out at 53.50. All this occurred in minute 4 there. So anyhow, beautiful 3R trade. We'll see what shows up on the tape here. All right, backing out now and going to talk about the real world, what's going on. In the big picture, all right, long-term investments. Winners, WNRS up 13%. We have Cybin up, FireEye, AMD, C Unlimited, Palantir up 2%, getting some love. That's nice. Have GoDaddy drawn here. That's GoDaddy's recovered from being down below 70. And I think it probably marches back up to 80 or so. This was pretty unfair. I mean, they beat earnings and sold off hard. Tesla up a little bit, Trade Desk up a little bit, name we haven't talked about in a while. See what's down. Click. Roblox. Let's just check out what's going on in the world of Roblox since they're down a little bit. Okay, not related to earnings. That was 10 days ago. Kind of a sell-off from, I think it's profit taking from this big run up here. So it went from 74 after earnings, touched 90, and then all the way back down to the mid-80s. I'll have to look, see if there's a headline here today, but I wouldn't expect it to fall too much further. K-Web, oh my goodness, just keeps falling. So last week, this was, is the bottom in K-Web when it moved up, 20% in 3 days. Well, it kind of sold off from there. I still think the bottom's in largely on the Chinese stocks, but certainly not today. They're on the move down. Don't see BABA in here. I'll just type it in. BABA. So yeah, selling off a little bit here as well from the big move up we had earlier. So I don't know. I think it's pretty safe to buy into BABA here at 160. Yeah, it was down to 150 a week ago, but anyhow. All right, that's my take on it. Back to, the green. All right, let's move out here and move on from the trading screen back to Google Chrome. We'll talk about GDP. All right, gross domestic product. That's what is commonly referred to in the news. Total monetary or market value of all finished goods and services produced within a country's borders in a specific time frame. Generally, we talk about it in annual GDPs, but it comes out quarterly. So whenever it comes out quarterly, you often hear the term year over year, meaning in the past year. So if it's the second quarter GDP is up, 6% year over year, that means it's up 6% over the previous year's second quarter GDP. So sometimes that can be a little confusing which ones they're talking about, but a lot of people look at these numbers, so it'll keep you straight. So monetary value, we got that. Economic snapshot of a country. Yeah, I think it's probably a better measure than anything else. So when you talk about, China having an 8% GDP or the US having a 6% GDP, even in the midst of COVID and the market's selling off, it's the economy certainly has strength on top of other issues like headline issues of the day. So, we can get a good GDP print as far as coming out in the morning and the market goes higher, even though we've had a bunch of negative new headlines, right? And it's one of those, while we're sitting there in the middle of COVID and the market was selling off, it's like, is Amazon really worth 35% less? Because there's because COVID's here. It's like, no, it's going to recover unless the world ends, right? There's always that caveat, unless the world ends. Well, guess what? If the world ends, then it all goes to zero, right? If the asteroid has hit the sun or hits the earth and knocks us out of orbit, all of those things, everything goes to zero. So then it doesn't matter. So you don't have to plan for the contingency where nothing matters, right? Because we're all dead. at that point. So, but during these temporary things like a pandemic, a declared pandemic, and if you think it's over, well, then you have to, I don't know what you're going to do. But as long as we're going to defeat it and move on, the economy is going to be even stronger coming out of something like this. And the reason I say that is because business owners had to pivot, had to change, and reinvent their businesses for a large part to make money during that time. Well, businesses are very good at doing that. That's why the stock market always continues higher, right? You kill off the weak, and the good get better, and everybody in between reinvents and looks for opportunities to provide products or services that society needs, and at a decent price that allows the consumer to think it's a good deal for them to pay it. And you, the business owner, it's a good deal for you because you're making enough money to meet your own financial objectives. So, I mean, it's kind of a beautiful system, but that's the strength of these GDP numbers. And that's when you hear China, relating it to China and an 8% GDP, even though their government's coming out with a bunch of regulation. I mean, how could you not invest in that? It's just growing too fast. It just really is. So anyhow, that's why I'm so hot on China, and I've been wrong for a while, but I think long-term will prove me to be right. We're just at a big dip as far as the China stocks are out there. Okay, so nice trade today, inside and out of it in a minute. Good stuff for the iPhone 13, maybe some satellite connectivity. I was just talking about this morning, I have an iPhone 12, so I'm not really due, generally on a 2-year cycle is kind of how I view it. But I might have to, the kids might be getting an iPhone 12, might have to get an iPhone 13 now, not just for satellite communications, but just to have the newest, latest thing. So anyhow, thank you so much for checking us out. And those who wished me happy birthday yesterday, thank you so much. That was very nice. Feeling the love out there. And with that, we will see you guys back tomorrow. Bye.